Reflection can sometimes be a little daunting. You don't always know where to start when you face the blank pages of your notebook. I'm here to share my mid-year reflection process with you, and maybe you can start thinking about your own. It starts with flicking through your journal. It's amazing when you see how much your brain has chosen to remember and to forget. My thoughts fell into a few different categories, so I divided the page up into 5 boxes per page using my sticky notes stencil. The first thing I like to think about is what has been going well. We tend to have a negativity bias and find it easier to think about what hasn't been going well, but thinking about the good gives you the energy to keep going. I put down my kids' growth and development. They've formed great habits. My daughter has started learning to play piano. My son has a growing passion for Shakespeare stories. This directs my attention to the positive things that we've been doing and where we've been spending our time well, rather than just focusing on what we haven't been doing. I've also started working freelance this year, and I've been building tools to help brands with their video content and social media. I'm working with Bullet Journal at the moment, and it's been so exciting working with Ryder Carroll and the Bullet Journal team. Finally, I wanted to take a moment to appreciate some lovely new friends I've made in the local area and a growing sense of community. These are things that you can easily miss and forget to be grateful for. Next, I look at my goals. How often do you look back at the goals you set earlier in the year? I realised how much had changed since then, and I did a deep dive into my goals. First, which goals are on track? I made a list of all the goals that seem like they're going to plan. Then there was a list of goals that are not on track but are still relevant. For example, reading my usual quota of books. Writing this down has prompted me to reach for my Kindle over the last few days rather than the TV remote. Goals like healthy eating and new recipes have been harder to do because we haven't had a kitchen for a month while we're redecorating. So those I'm still keen to get back on track in the next half of the year. I thought of some new goals that have come up since the new year, and I wrote those down, mostly related to my freelance work, building a portfolio and new clients. And I thought about the goals I want to change. There are things that I don't want to prioritise anymore, so there's no point in forcing them if they don't feel as important as the other goals anymore. It was helpful to think about the challenges faced so far this year, anything that might have made it harder to work on these goals. This makes you aware of the full picture, and you can be kinder to yourself if you haven't been able to make time for everything you want to. Life is full of so many more things than just the goals that we set. Next, I like to take a moment to think about how I'm feeling. An emotional check-in, the way that you check in on a friend, so you can provide extra support if you find that they need it. Now look ahead. Can you see any opportunities in the next half of the year? Small things like a change in schedule that could bring an opportunity to make time for something. Or upcoming breaks that can give you the opportunity to recharge. Any learning opportunities. I dedicated a separate category to learning to make a small list of things that I'll be learning or continuing to learn over the next 6 months. After taking the time to write all of this down, a plan started to form. So the final category is dedicated to writing down my focus areas for the next 6 months. There were things that I just want to keep up that are already on track, and things to improve. The things I haven't been making time for but want to make time for. When doing this, I find that it's important to remember that time is limited and we can't magically change the amount of time we have. And we can't always be in control of how we spend our time. This acceptance is quite freeing because you realise that things will take the time that they take, and you can work with that and set realistic plans instead of working against yourself. With that in mind, the next spread is dedicated to setting up a timeline. This is to help you think about when you will focus on the activities in your plan. You can't prioritize everything at once, and luckily you don't always have to. I'm laying out when I'll intensely focus on each activity in the year. For example, there are some things I'm better at doing during term time when my kids are at school, rather than in the school holidays when I know I'll be focusing more of my time in a day on them. I used a pink Tombow to mark off these fully focused times. I also used a light peach Tombow to mark off when I'll maintain a steady focus on any of the activities. This means I won't use all of my time and energy focusing on this activity, but instead just keep up a steady cadence with less pressure on it and less intensity. For example, I know I like yoga to be a constant in my life, practicing regularly, even if sometimes it's only for 10 minutes. Running, on the other hand, I tend to do more of in the summer, and it's easier to fit in the school holidays, so I try and prioritize running in the summer months. And maybe yoga will be less frequent to accommodate a run, but it can still be consistent at the reduced frequency. I used a dashed line to represent when I'll reduce my focus on something significantly, and this will help me make space for something else. For example, I know that my Etsy shop gets very busy towards the end of the year, so I can aim to reduce my focus on other activities to make room for this. You may not plan this out all perfectly at once, but making the attempt can really help you see how you might be able to balance several goals over the course of a year. I like to see this approach as intentional neglect, because you're choosing what to neglect and when to make space for other priorities. One priority will always be neglected when you focus fully on another, so why not take some control over that and decide what it will be that you neglect based on your circumstances and your preferences. So there's my mid-year check-in. It's not perfect, but it works for me, and that's the best you can hope for. Of course, I'll be sharing my spreads on Instagram too, so feel free to follow me over there to see more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.